This episode of Empty Betters is brought to you by DraftKings. Playoffs. We're talking about playoffs? You bet we are. Get in on the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Scoring touchdowns is key to winning in the playoffs, and you can score big by betting on them at DraftKings, the number one place to bet touchdowns. Ready to place your first bet? Try betting on something simple like a player to score six. Go to the DraftKings Sportsbook app and make your pick. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code THPN. That's code THPN for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in New Hampshire, Oregon, and Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/ftball. NFL Plus Premium offer available only to new and former NFL Plus subscribers. Additional NFL Plus Premium terms at nfl.com/terms.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to episode 243 of Empty Betters. I'm your host, Harrison Scholes. I'm going to toss it across the screen to my co-host, Mr. Nick Manella. What's going on?
Not too much, my dude. Fired up to be here.
Absolutely. And then to my other co-host we go, Mr. Mac Vogel up in Wisconsin. What's going on?
Not too much. It's cold, but we soldier on.
We do soldier on, and the NHL soldiers on as well, with a shit ton of headlines going on in the past week. One of which is a blockbuster trade that shocked the internet, the NHL internet, if you will. So we're going to dive right into that. And then we've got a few other topics that we'll talk about later on. But we got to start the episode with Mikko Rantanen getting dealt to the Carolina Hurricanes. Nobody saw this one coming.
Before we even unpack all this, can I just say, why does cool and crazy shit like this have to happen on like a Friday night when I'm like getting ready to go to the bars and shit? Like it couldn't happen while I'm, I don't know, like bored at work and scrolling Twitter in the bathroom or something like that. Like just the worst time for me to be able to actually dial in and like text you boys and like a reply to my casual hockey friends that are being like, what the hell does this mean? Just come on, do better. We can't have this going on Friday nights.
Yeah, there were plenty of just like dud evenings in that week where like the Caps weren't playing, or
Exactly.
was focused on something else that you could have taken up.
Selfishly, entertain me when I want to be entertained. Anyway,
Correct.
all right,
Exactly.
let's get into it.
Yeah, Nick, I told you this right before we hopped on. Celebrated my buddy's birthday. We went to Five Iron Golf Friday night. I think it was like a 9 p.m. session at like 8:30, I think it was. I checked my phone. I was like, what?
Yep.
Someone lying?
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll dive right into that right now. So the way I'll read this, I'll read each team and who they acquired or what they acquired, and then you guys can do the math yourself. Carolina Hurricanes, they walk out of Friday night with Mikko Rantanen and Taylor Hall joining the squad in a blockbuster three-way trade. The Colorado Avalanche acquired Jack Drury and Marty Necas, along with a second-round pick in 2025 NHL draft and a fourth-round pick in the 26 NHL draft. And then Chicago, they acquire a third-round pick in the 25 draft from Carolina. And they will also retain half of Rantanen's salary. So hopefully you can put the pieces of the puzzle, who traded who, but Carolina, they get Rantanen, and then the Avalanche, they get Necas. That's obviously the two big names that everyone's going to be talking about. So with this news, everyone was shocked. And before I toss it off to you boys, I'll kind of just read a couple rumors that have been going around. We all know Rantanen's an unrestricted free agent at the end of this season. There were rumors that he was trying to be the highest paid player in the NHL, maybe around that 14 million AAV, a little above Draisaitl's. And then there were other rumors that he talked to a Finnish reporter that he was willing to like take a little bit of a pay cut and he wanted to stay with the Avs. And then there's other reports saying like the Avs said you can't make more than McKinnon. I don't know if that's true or not. And then there's all this stuff going around. So with that, let's start with the Carolina Hurricanes. Are we for real here now?
So what's crazy? A couple things. I first saw, I think I texted you guys that Friedman had reported that Taylor Hall was going to Carolina, and that was enough for me to be like, "Wow, what the fuck is going on a Friday night right now?" And it wasn't until maybe 10, 20 minutes later that all of a sudden Rantanen's name was getting floated around. It was like, no fucking way. You got to be kidding me. I mean, this is crazy. That's two, I think, when they're at the top of their game, uh, excellent, excellent players in this league. Taylor Hall's career continues to be mind boggling. I mean, as a first overall pick, he's played for what, seven different teams or something like that? Is it that
It's
many
seven, yeah.
already?
Oilers, Devils,
Um,
Bruins, Hawks,
Coyotes.
Coyotes. Forgot about that.
Yeah.
Was he on Boston too, maybe?
Yeah, no, he was on
Yeah.
Boston. Yeah, I think it's
Anyway,
seven.
whatever. So crazy. Obviously Necas has been having a really good year too, so kind of crazy to see him get moved, but I guess move him when he's, the most valuable is I guess what they were thinking. The Hawks thing is a head scratcher. I've been trying to figure this one out. It seems like Hawks fans who know puck, which I mean, you got to kind of search through the weeds to find them. But Hawks fans who know puck seem to actually be okay with what happened here. So I guess I'll just, trust them. On the surface, it looks a little like what the fuck is Chicago doing in this trade, even. But yeah, I don't know. From what I've read, it seems like they had a plan here and they like how they came out of this. So
This is interesting. I mean, for all the reasons that Harry read earlier, it seems like a lot of people were caught off guard by this trade, and a lot of people in different organizations were caught off guard by this. I mean, we saw McKinnon say, "I thought that Rantanen was going to be an Avalanche for life. I thought he was going to be here forever." And you know,
he seemed genuinely shocked in that
yeah,
press conference where he was saying like with Gabe when Gabe re-signed his
right.
it kind of came down to the wire, but no one was really worried about it and he thought it was going to be the same thing.
Yeah, and then you have Bedard over in Chicago saying, hey, like I am totally caught off guard by this. This is the guy I go to for a lot of things, and by no reason is that the reason you keep a guy like that around. But
Sure,
this
but
one
I mean
definitely seems like it came out of left field for a lot of people.
absolutely, and I think you said it perfectly. You're not going to keep a guy like Taylor Hall around just for that purpose, but what a good person to have around for Connor Bedard. At least, it's good he was there for the first year and a half of his NHL tenure. I'm sure he's a good guy to be able to turn to and learn from somebody who's been around the league for a while, played for a lot of different teams, like we mentioned. So yeah, I'm sure that's a little bit of a heartbreaker there. I heard he also said he was excited to play against him too, which classic competitive nature
Yeah.
of a young lad there. But yeah, just a blockbuster trade. This has got to be the biggest like skater midseason trade
Yeah,
since I don't know. I heard some people saying since Marian Hossa, which I think that trade
Whoa.
was in like '08 or something.
Right.
You
I
could
don't remember
argue
that well.
what was the one we were talking about?
Subban Weber.
Yeah, that
That was off
mid-season? That
season.
was off season though, yeah.
Right.
So this may be the biggest mid-season one. I will say one other thing. Carolina Hurricanes, Harry, when you first unpacked this, you asked me, are they for real right now? And yes, they add Rantanen. Yes, they add Taylor Hall, but you already know what I'm going to say, don't you?
The pipes.
Yes,
The
sir.
pipes.
Yes, sir. It doesn't change the big old question mark that I still believe they have in between the pipes. So you can flame me for that if you think Kochekhov's the real deal, or if you think Freddie Anderson's not a band-aid, or whatever argument you want to
There's a lot
make.
of hockey left. Like he's got a lot of time that he needs to stay healthy for. I think that's a very valid concern.
Yeah.
I do think I do think Carolina deserves some serious credit here. Back-to-back years, they get the big fish, and nobody even knew this fish was, being fished. They get two big fish in back-to-back years, both pending UFAs. They didn't give up a first round pick, and they didn't give up any of their top prospects. The second that Max sent that Rantanen was going or Hall was coming, I thought immediately Jackson Blake's got to be dealt somewhere because that's the name that you always kind of feel like is going to be with those big dogs. They don't get rid of anything. I mean, it's a hell of a job by Tulski. He's a masterclass over there.
I was chatting with friend of the program, Nick Bowens, about this deal, and he made a great point. He's like, I think this is a great move for the Hurricanes, provided they do re-sign Mikko Rantanen next year.
Yeah, but see, this feels like the Gensel thing where like we don't
Right,
know if they're going to, and they
right.
might just get him and they just lost Necas and Drury just so they can get this guy and then lose in the second round or third round again. So we'll
Right.
see.
If I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure Nietzsche's is going to be a UFA next year. Like he did that
He
tiny
is.
bridge deal. So like they maybe didn't know if they were going to want to keep him. It's I hate to say it. I almost feel like they don't care now. I think they're like, we're so cup desperate that our window has been open for so
They're
long.
kind of like the Vegas situation
Yeah.
now where it's like we don't give a fuck about 5 years from now. We
Yeah.
got to win right now or it doesn't matter, which, I kind of respect. I think the Caps
It's
need to do the same thing. We'll talk
totally
about that
like
later, but
in line with Rod the Bod's coaching philosophy. It's just all out all the time as hard as you can. So like go for it now. Makes sense to me. I really don't want to see it happen. But I think the Natchez thing is interesting because he was a fan favorite in Carolina. And like obviously, Mac, you made a great point. He's having a monster season. His value's at the highest right now. So you probably had to jump on that because
Mm.
when again is he going to have this trade value? Probably never. So it's a manageable contract for a team to take on. There's not a ton of term, which is a little bit of a double-edged sword sometimes. So, yeah, I don't know. You give up a guy like Necas who's a little bit younger than Rantanen. Rantanen's a little bit further along in the development, I think, of what you're looking for from Necas. And I think at the end of the day, that was the selling point.
I think it's also a really unique trade in that, I mean, put Chicago aside for a second. Let's just kind of pretend this is a trade
Right.
between Carolina and Colorado because essentially that's kind of what it is. When have we seen like two major players like this get swapped and neither one is going to like a basement team? Like they're both,
Right.
no one's getting screwed and being like, oh shit, I wanted to play in the playoffs this year. You know what I mean? Like both of these
Yeah.
guys are still going to be in the playoffs this season. So that's really interesting. It's just like a handshake deal of like, let's swap these guys and we both feel they'll be better fits for our organization for different reasons. And best of luck. Let's see what happens here.
Kind of shifting the conversation to Colorado because I know a lot of people are really gutted by the Miko thing. I know, McKinnon's comments were pretty obvious. It's not often you see a core piece like that get dealt. Like you think about the Capitals, the Penguins, the Oilers. The Blackhawks had it going for a while until the wheels fell off. Um, the Kings, like all these guys stay together, and then all like this just went down in such a weird manner. Like I don't really understand it. Um,
I didn't
but
hear Rannonen's name floated even once
Right.
this whole season as a trade chip. Did you guys?
Nothing
no,
other than I knew they were going to have to re-sign him, and we just kept hearing that he wanted 14 million. That was it.
yeah, and McFarland was like, "Well, we're not going to do that."
Right.
All that being said, I don't think Necas is as big of a step down as some people online might be saying. I watched that Colorado Rangers game on Sunday. It was like a 5-4 game. It was one great hockey game. I was watching that before football started.
That was wild.
Necas is, I mean, I knew he was already good. I watch him. He's in the Eastern Conference, a little biased, but man, he's gonna light it up with McKinnon. He's
Yeah.
gonna,
This
Yeah.
year was his coming out party for sure.
I think this is going to shed a lot of light on just how. I mean, I don't want to take anything away from Rantanen. I think he's a terrific player, but I think just playing on a team and on a line or on a power play with a guy like Nate Mack can really inflate how people perceive you as a player. And again, I don't know. I'm not saying that's the case with Miko. I think he may be just as dynamic of an offensive talent, without Nate Mack by his side. We'll see. But I think a guy like you make a great point, Harry, that a guy like Necas, there's no reason he can't thrive as much as someone like Miko when he's playing with Nate Mack.
No, look at Jonathan Duran. just
Yeah.
total career resurgence there. And then you throw in just an absolute stud 23, 24-year-old prospect like Necas. I mean, the sky's the limit there.
Yeah. It's gonna be dangerous with those two. I also think maybe Rantanen's production goes down a little bit in Carolina just because of the fact that Rod the Bod is such a tight checking, defensive minded guy. Carolina's not like a run and gun type team, whereas, Colorado loves to just let it rip. I mean, they're out there to score. There's no secret. So think about the systems too. But yeah, crazy, crazy trade, in the NHL. Nick, I'm going to ask you this. With this trade, do you put Carolina in the top five for Stanley Cup contenders?
That is a tough question.
And then Matt can answer after you.
Yes, but they're not top three.
Noted.
I'm like trying to do the math in my head of who would be above them if I say no. Uh, you know what? Just gut reaction without thinking about it too hard. I do put them in the top five, but I think it's less about the actual pieces on the team and more about like their due. Like how long can they be a
Yeah.
top five NHL team and just not do anything, which is what I said about my own favorite team, the Capitals, for years and years and years. But it's true. I think at a certain point, something's got to give. We saw it happen with Tampa. We saw it happen with the Capitals finally. Um, I don't know. I do think you probably put them in top five, most likely to win the cup. Also, to circle back just a few minutes ago, Rantanen is 28. Nature's just turned 26. So just to put that
Okay.
Oh,
in
damn, he's
perspective,
26 already?
he
Shit. I thought it
just
was like
turned 26 like a week ago.
24. Okay.
Same.
All right. Well, we're gonna move on to a team that we agreed over the weekend we haven't talked enough about, probably because they're a Metro rival. But you got to give kudos where kudos is due, and it's hard not to root for these guys this season. The Columbus Blue Jackets, they are soaring up the standings right now. They are 7-2-1 in their last 10, chasing down the Bruins and Lightning for one of those wild card spots. They are 11-4-1 since December 23rd. So they are on a tear right now. They've won 9 of their last 10 home games. They've got the fifth best record at home in the NHL. All signs go. Zach Werenski playing great. Kirill Machenko must watch television every night right now. Those two guys leading the way for this team. Nick, what's your reaction been to CBJ's resurgence since the Christmas break?
Well, first of all, you just love to see it for what this team has had to go through, in the offseason on the run up to this year. But Harry, I think you nailed it. Kirill Marchenko is absolutely must-watch television. I mean, easily, in my opinion, right now, top five most exciting hockey players in the NHL.
Yeah, I this is an odd team because you look at them, they've only got one 20 goal scorer. It's Kirill Marchenko, who you just mentioned. They do have five different players with more than 30 points, with also Adam Fantilli at 28 right behind that. So some spreading the love in terms of, who's getting points and that kind of stuff. Someone else I want to highlight, James Van Riemsdyk. He's 35 years old now, and I'm not saying he's having a career year or anything, but he's doing what they need him to do. He's got 10 goals, 11 assists. I'm sure he's I haven't watched a ton of CBJ hockey this year, but I would imagine he's doing some good forechecking, and he's being the guy off the ice that team needs right now too. So interesting squad. I also want to highlight Elvis. He has been playing really well the last several games. And Tarasov has been pretty solid backup as well. So also that guy Jet Greaves, I don't know if he's still up with them,
Right.
but I know the Caps had to face him, and he's been excellent in the games where he's had to be deployed. So the goaltending has been solid when it's needed to be, and yeah, that team, it's starting to look like they're not kidding about being a contender. It's not just like they ended up in a playoff spot randomly for a couple of weeks. They seem to be, hanging around right there. They're going to be pesky to beat out for that last spot.
Every game is fun to watch for them. You look at over the weekend, Fantilli pots his first career hat trick, I believe in his hometown, Toronto kid, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
He had a bunch of family there, so he gets the hat trick there. And then Marchenko with that unreal overtime winner against LA. Um, yeah, they're fun and they score a lot of goals. I know we've talked about that before, but they are by far and away the best team to bet the over on so far this season. Cody Pucks will tell you that firsthand. So it's fun. I'm going to be tuning into a lot more CBJ. Been doing a little more recently.
Now, obviously, Werenski too. We'd be remiss if we didn't mention him having a Norris caliber season. It's
He's
gonna be
up there.
hard. It's gonna be hard to beat him out for that this year. I really think so.
And I mean, there's a multiple guys on this team that played at Michigan, and it's so annoying because I'm like finding myself really enjoying watching all of them play. I mean, Werenski, the fact that he's just healthy this year is amazing to see because he's such a talented, not only defender, but one of the best skaters in the NHL for sure. Kent Johnson, I know he was out at the beginning of the season, came right in and it's just instant impact right away, 1 or 2 points pretty much every night. And then Harry, you nailed it. Fantilli finally unleashes the shot. And that's the shot that, we saw when he was playing at Michigan. Last year, I know he was banged up a little bit too, but I thought that was going to be the shot that was going to win him the Calder. So, glad to see that he is putting that to good use.
One final guy too. I just want to mention Dmitry Voronkov. This guy, he's only in his second NHL season, but last year in his rookie year, he played 75 games, ended up with 18 goals, 16 assists, pretty respectable for your first year in the NHL. This year, he's only played 41 games so far. Already has matched his goal total, 18 goals. He's 1 assist shy of his assist total last year with 15 assists. So he's already just 1 point behind his season total from last year, and he's got exactly 41 more games to play if he suits up for all of them. So hats off to that kid. I think he's been trusted with a lot more ice time this year. So yeah, that's awesome.
Guys like Ivan Drago on skates. He's 6'5", 227, built like a fucking machine. And
Yeah, and he's like
he
a fourth
skates
round
well.
fourth round pick for CBJ too. A little bit
Yeah.
of a kind of a diamond in the rough there. So they
Yeah.
must have seen something in the big boy.
Anytime you can get a 20 goal, I mean, he might even be a 30 goal guy by the end of the season. 30 goal guy who's 6'5", 227, you'll take that to the bank. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, good for CBJ. I'm gonna actually look up their upcoming games for the week real quick, just so we can see.
Their wild card race, I think, is going to get so interesting. I mean, we do this every year in the East. Of course, the wild card race is going to get interesting. But right now, the Jackets are ahead of the Habs, Rangers, Red Wings, Flyers, and Islanders for that wild card position. And if you told me that at the beginning of the year, I would have said you were high.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny. I mean, I don't really see the Islanders as a real threat, but they're all of a sudden catching fire. They've won four in a row, so we'll
Right.
see. We'll see what happens. So for CBJ, they are about to begin their West Coast trip. So they're traveling right now, probably. They've got Vegas on Thursday, Utah on Friday, Dallas on Sunday. It's
That's
tough.
a big test. I can't
That's a
wait to see how
swing.
that goes.
Yeah. They're clearly better on home ice than compared to away. So we'll see how that all works out. Another team who is on the up and up after we probably pronounced them dead, but they've been so good that I publicly posted on X that I dropped a 50 burger on them to make the playoffs. And some people loved it, some people hated it. The New York Rangers, they are one of the hottest teams in the NHL right now. They have points in 10 of their last 11 games. They were riding a 10-game point streak prior to Sunday's 5-4 loss to Colorado. Talked to our good friend Mark Corderaro about the team, just kind of getting a general feel. He said Sam Carrick deserves a big shout out. He's been playing really well lately. Will Bjorn, I know that trade with the Kraken and Kako. Maybe some Rangers fans were disappointed about that, but our buddy Lazarus, who joined the show a little bit ago, he said Bjorn deserves a contract extension, a steady stay-at-home guy. So he got a nice little 5-year extension over the weekend. And Igor. Jesus, guys, this guy back-to-back shutouts before surrendering 5 to the Avalanche on Sunday. But in the month of January, he has been dominant.
He's looked good. I hate this so much because I want this team to stay at the bottom of the NHL for the rest of eternity. But yeah, I think, they've been playing some good hockey. I still have concerns about this team if I had the unfortunate, displeasure of being a Rangers fan. My main concern with them is they don't close games. And I think the Colorado game was a perfect example. You get the game-winning goal scored with what, 13 seconds to go?
Yeah.
Maybe you want to cover that guy who's coming out of the penalty box. What's his name? Cale Makar? Yeah, probably want to do that. So I think from the games I've seen the Rangers play this year, yeah, the defense can be good at times. Yes, they can score when things are going well. But at the end of the day, like you do have to finish 60 minutes. And that was a huge problem for the Washington Capitals last year. And I'm kind of seeing the same thing for the Rags right now.
Yeah, I think those are all good points. I think the Rangers, for me right now, I am not ready to take a stance on whether they're actually going to pull this season together and make something of it or whether they're just going to finish as bottom feeders. And I'll tell you why. Right now, as we're recording this episode, this team, the Rangers, are basically in limbo. They're in nirvana, okay? The reason I say that, couple different reasons. If you look at how many games they've won and how many games they've lost, they're basically at 500 right now. If you look at how many games they've won on the road and how many games they've won at home, it's almost identical. And if you look at their goal differential, it is +1. They are just sitting flat right now. They are not good or bad. They are just a hockey team for the moment.
They just are.
They just exist for the moment. And so for me, it's going to be the next, what do we have?
A tough
2 weeks
schedule.
until Four Nations or something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
Tough
I
schedule.
I want to see where they're at when we get to Four Nations, because people don't realize. I mean, All-Star break used to take up what, 3 days or something like that. Four Nations, we break for almost, it's
Two
like a
weeks.
week, a little more than a week. So when we come back from Four Nations, there is not that much time left. We are, I think, only 3 weeks out from the trade deadline, if I'm
Hmm.
not mistaken, when we come back from Four Nations. So what I want to know is what's this team doing? I want to know where they're at in the standings right when we break for Four Nations, and then I will be able to take a stance on whether I think this team can actually salvage something about this season or not. As of right now, I don't know.
Yeah, some of their games in January, I think, yeah, they got some good wins. This is just running through their most recent games. Abs, Flyers, Sens, Habs, Jackets, Hockey Club, Abs, Vegas, Jersey. Not exactly the most
Eh,
heavyweight schedule. I mean,
They
Vegas,
got some good
Jersey,
ones.
CBJ's in there. Yeah, I think you make a good point. The next month and a half is going to be the make or break.
Yeah. Well, their upcoming schedule, I'll read that real quick. So they've got 6 games remaining before Four Nations. They've got Carolina at home the night you guys are listening to this Tuesday. That's that's the measuring stick game. That's like every year that playoff series happens, it feels like Rantanen fresh in the white and red. I'm really looking forward to that. I'll be tuning in.
It's
Then
like
they've
Bills
got
Chiefs.
it literally is Bills Chiefs. So they got the Hurricanes, Bruins, Vegas, Bruins again, and then the Penguins, which is just a win, and then CBJ.
So that's what, 6 games you said?
Yeah.
If they win 4 of those games or more, I will be willing to say the Rangers are back.
Okay. I think they're back. I hate to
Okay.
say it.
All right.
I think they might be back. I feel like this team is too good,
And
and they
the
went through
thing
that
is, I want
adversity.
to hold them to a high standard. I recognize that a lot of those teams are tough to beat. Even the Bruins are not having an amazing season, but they're never that
They're
easy of a team to play.
yeah.
So that's why I say I think I want to see some impressive wins here before the break. So win 4 of those, difficult games, and then we'll talk.
They're 3 points out of the wild card spot, the second wild card spot. The problem is they're 10 points out of the third spot in the Metro. And 10 points like coming into February, I just don't know if I
It's
see the
tough.
Devils giving that up. So it's like even if they do, get the nose up on this thing, they're probably going in as a wild card. And not saying that that's the end of the world because we know in the Stanley Cup playoffs anything can happen, but that home ice, it does matter.
I'm going to say something, last thing about this team that you guys are going to absolutely hate, but I've been seeing it nonstop, and I watched the entire game on Sunday because I did bet the Rangers to win that game and sadly lost it. Matt Rempe's not that bad. He's not
I
that
did. I
bad.
saw he had a nice goal.
He had a nice goal, and that was a different game. He had
Isn't it
a
like a
really
rebound or something?
no. He had like a semi breakaway, nice backhander. It wasn't the game I watched, but I know the one you're talking about.
Yeah.
Does he have
Uh,
two goals now?
he had a sick assist in that Sunday game against Colorado. They are 22, 5, and 4 all time with Rempe in the lineup.
That's crazy.
Like what the he's a fourth line player. Why does that have such an
Yeah, and
impact? But
every day that my grandma has been alive, I've gone to work. Like, I don't know. What do you want me to say?
oh, okay. Okay. I like that one though. I'm just saying the kid's kind of got hands. Like he's not a good skater, but well, he is for his size, he's actually not a bad skater, but he's got hands. I
I
give it to
mean,
him.
I saw that nice goal he had. When your arms are the size of telephone poles, you can put the puck 9 feet this way and then 9 feet that way. It's going to be hard for someone to take it off your stick.
Blind squirrel finds a nut, clocks, broken clocks right twice a day, et cetera, whatever.
Not bad. That's all I'm gonna say. All right, we're gonna wrap this episode up with some news that these two fellas are definitely gonna want to talk about. The Washington Capitals sign their what I would say Vezina caliber goalie this season, Logan Thompson, to a 6-year, $35 million extension. Your guys' thoughts, reactions?
Like it. Damn good deal. I like this a lot. I think when you look at what he probably could have got on the free agent market, maybe a certain team in red and white or orange and blue would have swooped in and probably done 6 or 7. I think that's fair to say. So I really like the, around 5.5. That seems like a good deal to me. 6 years, I like the term. Obviously that's contingent on can he keep this level of production up? But I mean, for a guy that is leading the NHL in every goaltending category other than shutouts, that's a fantastic deal.
Yeah, I mean the dude's 27. I think it's totally plausible to think that he can replicate the type of hockey he's playing for the next several years. And even if he doesn't, even if no goalie in the NHL has really ever had like 6 seasons in a row where you're like, this guy's incredible. Maybe Marty or Patrick
Herder.
Roy or whatever, but in recent memory, that just doesn't happen. So I like this deal a lot because you get him under 6 million, and it's a price where you feel okay if he regresses a little bit towards the end of that, or if he has an off year in there. It's something I'm more comfortable with. We basically turned Kemper into a younger, more reliable guy with lower salary cap. So if you want to look at that way, there's really no downside. It'll be interesting to see what they do with Charlie Lindgren. Probably unlikely he stays a Capital. I would think that another team would be willing to pay him to be their starter next year. So if that's the case, that'll be sad to see him go. But um, yeah, it is what it is. Logan has been incredible this year, so I'm excited about this deal.
I am always fascinated by how teams win cups with the type of goalie they have. And the way I see it is there's like three calibers. You've got the rookie who's on the rookie deal that comes out of nowhere. You've got a really, really good roster where teams or experts might say, but the goalie might not be the strongest. And then you've got like god tier goaltending, right? And when I look at I'm looking at a list here, like the last 10 Stanley Cup winning goalies. You look at Aiden Hill, Matt Murray, Bennington, right? Those guys jump out and you say, that's the rookie deal. They saved all their cap for the roster. Then you've got guys like Kemper, Crawford. I might throw Holpe in there, where you're like, good goaltending, decent, right? They can hold the fort. They might not steal you the game, but the team's good enough in front of them where it's gonna work. And you've got your god tier where it's like Bobrovsky, Vasilevsky, those guys where they carry the team.
Your multiple Vesna winners.
Yeah, I think LT could be a solid like Kemper, Hopi caliber type guy in the playoffs. I don't think he's gonna like play this well for the whole 6 years, but I think he can live up to like a Kemper type caliber when he was in Colorado, that is.
Yes.
I can see it.
I totally agree with you. And Mac, I think you make a really good point about Lindgren. We just don't really know what's going to happen with that right now. I know there were reports going around today that the Caps are trying to get more information before they extend Chikrin. I don't know why you have to do that when you bought Cap Friendly, but
I like that. I don't know.
does the work for you? Like I don't know.
Put in perspective, this is literally the Tristan Jarry contract. It's 1 year extra and a couple 100,000 more. Tristan Jarry is playing for Wilkes-Barre Scranton, so I'd say you guys are making out okay right now. That's
Yeah,
all I got.
I mean, I have nothing else to add other than, most people I saw tweeting or posting about this today were saying something along the lines of finally a goalie deal that I don't hate. Like,
Yeah.
there's been so many
Yeah,
crazy goalie deals lately that everyone knows is eventually going to be a bad deal.
right.
And so people looked at this one and were just kind of like, oh, yeah, that actually just makes sense. Cool.
Yeah. And I mean, well deserved. I feel like we've
Yeah.
probably hit that on the head 1,000 times. Recent games for the Caps, 3-2 win in Edmonton on Tuesday. A 3-zip dog walking of the Kraken on Thursday, and I use that term because that's what it was. Halfway through the third period, I think the shots were like 23-9, and pretty much for the back half of that third period, you could tell the Kraken just had nothing. Bilesma pulls the goalie with like 4 minutes left. I think they had maybe like 5 minutes of zone time that entire third period. It just seems like the Caps were just running a power play in their end. So that was awesome to see. Tough one on Saturday in Vancouver. It's been a good road trip so far. Would have liked to see them get that one, but, understandable. Upcoming at Calgary tonight, at Ottawa on Thursday. And then I'm going to call this game of the year, boys. Home against the Jets on Saturday night. Top two teams in the NHL standings right now. That's going to be a big one.
That's a heavyweight tilt. I am definitely tuning into that one. Should be a doozy. Should be a doozy. All right, fellas. Anything else you want to mention before we wrap up here?
Are we doing trivia? I have a quick one if you want to. Otherwise, we'll skip it.
Let's rip it real quick.
Run it.
All right. Well, it's very topical. We're going to talk about most expensive goalies in the NHL. So, real quick, just to give you some of the parameters here. This comes to us from Slapshot Instagram account. Each team's most expensive goalie going into 25-26. Um, can you tell me the top five most expensive goalies going into 2025-26, with the caveat that he didn't include goalies who are currently in the minor leagues. So, like, Jari does not count for Pittsburgh, for example.
Okay, so the top five paid goalies going in the next year, right? I feel like Bob's got to be on there.
Yes, indeed.
Feel like Igor's got to be on there. He has to be at the top,
Correct.
right?
He's number one.
Think Ottinger and Swayman might make their way on there. Maybe.
It's hard because this is not in order. It's an alphabetical order, so I'm trying
Okay.
to make sure. There might be a few ties in here, but
Okay.
that they're up there. You're missing one that is above the other ones though.
Vasi.
Yeah, there you go. So
Okay.
I think you basically got it to nail it. Obviously, Igor's 11.5 mil. Then you've got Bobrovsky at 10. Vasilevsky's 9.5, and then there's a bunch of them that have like 8.3. So all the
Yeah.
8.3 guys are Swayman, uh, Ottinger, and then
Hellebuck, I think maybe too.
um, this is cut off. I cropped it badly, but I think you're right. And then also Allmark, don't forget, and Sorokin, both 8.3.
Oh, that's right.
So a lot of goalies, just to put it in perspective for you, a lot of goalies making top dollar right now.
What's funny is like who out of those would you say is playing better than LT right now?
Helly's the only one.
Right.
Helly's the only one I would argue. That's
Special shout out to the Calgary Flames, who will still be paying Dustin Wolf 850K next year.
that's crazy. And they're in a
That
playoff spot right now.
right.
Yeah, not only is Saturday top two teams in the NHL, it's probably the top two Vezina finalists going head to head. So should be
Also,
Yeah.
shout out that Vegas on this graphic gets a cool NA listed because I believe they don't have any goalies signed for next year. So
that's just how they roll. Gamble. Big gambles. All right, everybody. Well, we appreciate the love and support as always. And we will talk to you in the next one.